Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are going to be talking all about improving your decision-making with clear thinking by Shane Parrish.
Oh yeah, clear thinking.
Have you ever made a choice and then later you're like, ugh, why did I do that?
Oh yeah, all the time.
This book is packed with insights and real-world examples to help us avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah, it's funny. What's really fascinating about this book is how Parrish shows how small, everyday choices can snowball and have this huge impact on our lives down the road.
It's almost like we're on autopilot sometimes.
Yeah.
And we don't even realize the impact these small decisions are having.
Exactly. He calls these ingrained patterns of thinking and behavior defaults.
Defaults, okay.
And he identifies 4 main ones:
Okay, hit me.
inertia, emotion social, and ego.
You've probably experienced at least one of these.
Oh yeah, probably all of them.
I know I have.
At some point or another, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes our brains are working against us.
Totally. It's like
Yeah.
we're hardwired to make bad choices.
It's because these defaults, they operate beneath our conscious awareness.
Oh, that's freaky.
Right. But once we understand them, we can manage them and make more deliberate choices.
So let's break down these defaults a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Parrish uses some interesting stories in the book, and in one of them he talks about a CEO whose anger ultimately led to his downfall.
Oh yeah, that's a classic example of the emotion default in action.
Yeah, this CEO, despite his success, let his emotions get the best of him.
And it had some pretty serious consequences for him and the company.
So even successful people can fall prey to these defaults.
Absolutely, none of us are immune to it. We all have them.
So what can we do about it?
Well, Parrish uses a really compelling story to illustrate this in a way we can all understand.
Oh, I like a good story.
Yeah, he talks about Sonny Corleone from The Godfather.
Okay, yeah, love that movie.
You remember Sonny? He's very quick to react and has kind of an explosive personality.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's a great example of someone operating entirely on the emotion default. And this impulsiveness leads to his downfall.
So the opposite of his father.
Exactly. His father, Vito Corleone the Don,
Yeah.
he was known for being calm and calculated.
Wow, what a contrast.
Right.
It makes you think how many times have we let our emotions get the best of us?
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there.
Not that any of us are running a mafia family or anything.
Right. But even in less dramatic situations.
Exactly.
But the important thing is, once we're aware of this tendency to let our emotions rule us, we can start to develop some strategies to manage them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the social default.
Yeah. The social default.
That pressure to conform even when we know it's not the best decision.
Right. The desire to fit in can be so powerful, it can override logic
For sure.
and sometimes lead us to make choices that we later regret.
Oh yeah, totally.
Parrish actually uses a historical example to highlight this one.
Ooh, I love when he brings in historical stuff.
He uses Benedict Arnold's betrayal.
Benedict Arnold? Okay, refresh my memory on him.
He was a decorated military officer in the American Revolutionary War.
Right, yeah.
And he ended up betraying his country and siding with the British.
Whoa, so what drove him to that?
Well, there were a lot of factors,
Yeah.
but Parrish argues that the social default played a big role.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, Arnold, he felt resentful and undervalued, and he craved recognition and social status.
So he wanted to be accepted by a different group, even if it meant betraying his own people.
It's pretty crazy, right?
It's a powerful reminder that our need to belong can be a huge driver.
Yeah, sometimes it overrides logic and even our own values.
Okay, so how do we combat that?
By understanding that tendency, we can become more aware of when it might be influencing our choices.
Okay, good advice.
And then finally, we have the inertia default.
The inertia default.
This is all about staying in our comfort zones,
Oh yeah, that's me.
even when they might not be serving us well anymore.
Staying in that comfort zone.
Think of it as the stay the course mentality, even when the course is headed in the wrong direction. In Parrish, he actually shares a personal anecdote about a business investment where he fell into this trap.
Really?
Yeah, he held onto this investment longer than he should have, even though it was pretty clear that he should get out.
So he knew better, but just didn't do it.
He was comfortable with the status quo.
It's easy to just keep doing the same thing.
It takes effort to break free from that inertia.
So even someone who studies this stuff can fall victim to these defaults.
Yeah, we're all human, right?
That's comforting.
Nobody's perfect.
Okay, so now that we understand these defaults a little better,
Yeah.
what can we do to overcome them?
Well, Parrish offers some tools and strategies to combat these tendencies and help us make more deliberate choices.
Okay, I like it. Give me the tools.
He talks about 4 key strengths that we can cultivate to fight back against those defaults.
Ooh, okay. I'm ready to lamb on me.
Self-accountability, self-knowledge, self-control, and self-confidence.
Okay, so we're building up our defenses here.
Exactly. These strengths are like a counterbalance to those defaults.
I like it.
And they help us make choices that are more in line with our goals and values.
Awesome. So let's start with self-accountability.
Okay, self-accountability.
We hear this term a lot, but what does it actually mean, like when we're talking about clear thinking?
Parrish says it's all about taking ownership of our actions and their consequences.
Okay,
It means moving past blame and excuses.
so we're taking responsibility.
Exactly. We have the power to choose our responses, even in tough situations.
So we're not just victims of our circumstances.
Now we have agency.
I like it.
And he tells this story about a tough experience he had early in his career.
Ooh, tell me about it.
He was told by a colleague to stop making excuses.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call for him.
So what do you do?
He realized he'd been deflecting blame instead of focusing on what he could actually control.
Okay.
And from that point on, he made a conscious effort to take responsibility for his actions and find solutions.
I love that, just own it and move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Powerful stuff. All right, so self-knowledge seems like it would go hand in hand with self-accountability.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If we don't know ourselves, how can we assess any situation?
It's essential, Parrish says.
Hmm.
We got to be honest with ourselves about our strengths and our weaknesses.
And sometimes our weaknesses are harder to admit, right?
Totally. Our egos can get in the way.
For sure.
So Parrish actually suggests seeking feedback from people we trust.
Okay, like a mentor or something.
Yeah, he calls them truth tellers.
Oh, I like it. Truth.
People who will give us honest feedback.
So we can see those blind spots.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Next up, self-control.
All right, self-control.
That makes me think of willpower.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think of, but Parrish has a more nuanced take.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He describes self-control as the ability to manage our impulses,
Okay.
our knee-jerk reactions that can get us into trouble.
Right, we all have those.
And he uses this analogy of domesticating wild horses.
Okay, wild horses.
Yeah.
How does that relate to self-control?
He says our impulses are like wild horses, powerful and untamed.
Okay, I see it.
But with practice and the right techniques, we can learn to harness that energy.
So it's like training ourselves to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively.
Exactly.
Cool, so we're not letting those wild horses run wild.
Right, we're getting them under control.
I like it, all right. And then the final strength, self-confidence.
Self-confidence.
That one seems kind of obvious, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, there is. Parrish makes a distinction between confidence and ego. True self-confidence is about believing in our ability to handle challenges.
Not letting those challenges get us down.
Right? Even when things get tough.
Okay.
He says that people with genuine self-confidence, they're not afraid to admit their weaknesses.
Really? That's interesting. I would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but true confidence comes from knowing that we can learn and grow from our mistakes.
That's a good point.
And he also talks about the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who challenge us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
People who offer different perspectives so we don't get stuck in an echo chamber.
Right. It's easy to just surround ourselves with people who agree with us all the time.
It is, but true growth comes from stepping outside of our comfort zones.
And being open to new ideas.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about these 4 key strengths.
Yes. Self-accountability, self-knowledge, self-control, and self-confidence.
They all sound great in theory,
They do.
but how do we actually use them to make better decisions?
Well, Parrish gives us a really practical framework for approaching decisions with more clarity and intention.
Okay, I like frameworks. Give me the steps.
The first step, and maybe the most important one, is often overlooked.
Okay, here.
It's all about defining the problem.
Okay.
Seems simple enough, right?
Yeah.
But Parrish cautions against jumping to solutions before we really understand what the problem is.
I think we've all been there.
We try to fix the symptoms without addressing the root cause.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
That's a great analogy. It might cover up the problem temporarily, but it's not actually solving anything.
So how do we avoid that trap?
He suggests using what he calls the root cause principle.
Okay, what's that?
It involves asking why repeatedly until you get to the heart of the matter.
Okay, so like, why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Exactly. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion
Okay, I can visualize that.
to reveal the core issue.
I like it. So we're really thinking critically here.
And he also stresses the importance of getting diverse perspectives during this phase.
Okay, so talking to people who might see the problem from a different angle.
Exactly, because they might have insights that we've missed.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've defined the problem. What's next?
Once we have a clear understanding of what the problem is, it's time to start exploring possible solutions.
Okay, this is where it gets fun, right?
This is where we get to be creative.
I like it.
And Parrish encourages us to brainstorm multiple options and to avoid binary thinking.
Binary thinking, what's that?
It's that tendency to see things as either choices.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
It's really common, but it can limit our options.
Okay, so how do we avoid that?
He gives us a couple of safeguards.
Lay 'em on me.
One is to imagine that one of the options is totally off the table.
Okay, so it forces us to think outside the box.
Exactly.
I like it. What's the other one?
It's to brainstorm both and options.
Both and options.
So it's about finding ways to integrate seemingly opposing choices.
Ooh, okay. Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, Parrish gives the example of someone trying to decide whether to stay in their current job or leave.
Okay, yeah, I've been there.
Instead of seeing it as an either choice,
Right.
they could explore options that let them both stay and start exploring new opportunities.
So like maybe take on a new project at work while also networking and looking for other jobs.
Exactly. It's about finding that middle ground.
I love the both and approach.
It's a good one.
It's making me realize how often I limit myself with that black and white thinking.
It's a trap we all fall into.
Okay, so we're brainstorming solutions, avoiding binary thinking. What else do we need to keep in mind?
Opportunity costs.
Opportunity costs, okay.
Yeah.
Remind me what those are again.
It's recognizing that every choice we make comes with a trade-off.
Right.
When we choose one option, we're saying no to other possibilities.
So it's about looking at what we might be giving up by choosing a particular path.
Exactly. Parrish calls it the three-lens principle.
Okay, 3 lenses. I like it.
The first lens is all about the direct costs and benefits of a choice.
Okay, makes sense.
The second one is the potential downstream consequences.
Okay.
And the third is what else we could be doing with the time, money, or resources that we're investing in that choice.
So we're looking at the big picture.
Exactly. And he suggests that even if we can't perfectly quantify all the costs and benefits,
Right.
just asking ourselves the question, at the expense of what, can be really helpful.
Ooh, that's a good one. At the expense of what?
It helps us surface those hidden opportunity costs.
That's a great takeaway.
Okay, so now we've defined the problem and explored some possible solutions.
We're making progress.
What's the next step?
Evaluation.
Okay.
Right. We got to figure out the best option.
Exactly. And this is where we bring some structure and objectivity to the process.
So it's not just going with our gut.
We want to be a little more strategic than that.
Okay, I like it.
Parrish says it's important to set clear and measurable criteria for assessing our options.
So it's like creating a scorecard.
Yeah, exactly. And he gives some examples.
Okay, like what?
Is it goal promoting? Is it decisive? Is it practical?
Okay, those all sound good.
And he warns against using criteria that are too complicated or ambiguous.
Right. We want them to be useful.
Exactly. They should actually help us make the decision.
Makes sense.
Now, once we have our criteria, we need high-quality information to use in our evaluation.
Ooh. Okay, so this is where we bring in the hi-fi and hi-X information, right?
Exactly.
I love those terms.
Yeah.
So remind me, hi-fi is information from the source and hi-X is expert advice.
You got it.
Okay, but why is hi-fi considered better?
It's because it hasn't been filtered or interpreted by anyone. It's the raw data.
So we're getting the unvarnished truth.
Exactly.
Okay, I see why that's important.
Parrish tells this great story about General George Marshall during World War II.
Okay.
He wanted to figure out what was going on with the problem on the front lines.
Yeah.
So he sent someone he trusted to go investigate firsthand.
So he didn't just rely on reports, he wanted to get the information straight from the source.
Exactly. And Parrish suggests a few safeguards for making sure we're getting the hi-fi information.
Okay, I'm all ears.
We can run experiments to gather data ourselves, ask people how they think instead of what they know,
Okay.
and evaluate the motivations of our sources to see if there might be any biases.
So we're being like detectives.
Exactly. We got to be thorough.
I like it. All right, so hi-fi information is crucial, but is there still a place for expert advice?
Yeah, there is. Parrish doesn't dismiss expert opinions. He just emphasizes that we need to make sure we're dealing with a true expert.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we know if someone is a real expert?
We'll look for someone who has a deep understanding of the subject,
Okay.
a track record of success, and a willingness to share their knowledge.
So someone who's not just trying to sell us something.
Right, and when you're asking for their advice, make sure you've done your homework.
So we're showing them respect.
Exactly, and don't just ask them to tell you what to do.
Oh, right.
Try to understand their thought process, their approach to solving problems.
Okay, so we're learning how to think like an expert.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we've gathered all this information, both hi-fi and hi-ex. Now it's time to make a decision and take action.
This is where some people get stuck.
I can see that.
It can be scary to commit to a decision, especially if the stakes are high.
Oh, yeah. There's always that fear of making the wrong choice.
And sometimes that fear can lead to analysis paralysis.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Where we just keep gathering more and more information because we're afraid to make a decision.
I've been there for sure.
So Parrish gives us this principle to help us know when it's time to act.
Okay, I like it.
He calls it the stop, FLB, no principle.
Okay, break that down for me.
Stop means stop gathering information when you're not learning anything new.
Okay, stop gathering information.
FLOP stands for first lose opportunities.
Ooh, I like that one.
It means that we need to act before we miss out on something good.
That makes sense.
And no means act when we have enough information to choose the best option confidently.
Okay, so it's about finding that sweet spot between gathering enough information but not getting bogged down.
Exactly.
Cool. And is there anything else we should keep in mind when we're taking action?
Yeah. Parrish emphasizes the importance of building in a margin of safety,
Okay, a margin of safety. What's that?
especially when we're making big decisions with potentially big consequences.
Okay.
It's like when engineers are designing a bridge, they don't just build it to handle the average weight.
Right.
They build it to withstand much more,
Just in case.
just in case something unexpected happens.
So we're being prepared for those worst case scenarios.
Exactly. And he also suggests a technique he calls bullets before cannonballs.
Okay, bullets before cannonballs. Tell me more.
It's about running small, low-risk experiments
Oh.
to test our assumptions before we make any big commitments.
So like a pilot program.
Yeah, he gives the example of a client who was trying to decide between two candidates for CEO.
Oh, okay.
And they ran a small project with each candidate to see how they performed.
Wow, that's really smart.
Yeah, it's a great way to gather data before you make a big decision.
Makes sense.
So now we've made the decision and we've taken action.
Yeah, we're moving right along.
What do we do next?
I'm guessing we review the outcome and see what we can learn from it.
Parrish stresses the importance of reflecting on the decision-making process
Okay.
and learning from both our successes and failures.
Yeah, that's crucial. But sometimes I think we skip over that step.
We do.
We just focus on the outcome, and we don't always think about how we got there.
He says we need to separate the quality of the decision from the outcome.
Oh, that's interesting. Because sometimes a good decision can lead to a bad outcome.
Exactly. And a bad outcome doesn't always mean we made a bad decision.
Okay, that's a good point. Can you give me an example of that?
He talks about Seattle Seahawks coach Pete Carroll.
Okay.
And his decision to pass the ball instead of running it at the end of Super Bowl XLIX.
Oh, yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, it was a really controversial call.
It didn't work out so well.
It didn't, but Parrish argues that the decision itself was sound, based on the information he had at the time.
Yeah, it just didn't pan out.
It happens.
So even though they lost, it wasn't necessarily a bad decision.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're looking at the process, not just the result.
And he also says that we should document our thought process when we're making decisions.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
It helps us evaluate our reasoning later on. And it helps us avoid hindsight bias.
Hindsight bias? What's that?
It's that tendency to look back and think, oh, I should have known better.
Oh, yeah, we all do that.
Our egos try to rewrite history.
Right.
So by keeping a record of our thinking, we can be more objective in assessing our decisions.
So we can learn from our mistakes and our successes.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now, so far, we've been focusing on the more rational, analytical aspects of decision-making.
Yeah.
But Parrish says that good judgment goes beyond just rationality.
Ooh, okay, so if it's not just about being rational, what else is involved?
It's about choosing goals that are truly meaningful
All
and aligning our lives with our values.
right, so we're getting into the bigger picture now.
We are.
I like it.
It's about choosing goals that are truly meaningful and aligning our lives with our values.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and lose sight of what really matters. You know, chasing after money or status.
It is.
Yeah.
Parrish actually uses a really great analogy to illustrate this.
Oh, I love his analogy.
Yeah, he compares it to Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
You remember how Scrooge, he's initially obsessed with wealth and possessions,
Yeah.
but then he realizes that true happiness comes from relationships and experiences and making a difference in the world.
It's such a classic story, and it's so true.
It is, we can get so focused on those external measures of success that we forget about what actually brings us joy.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap? How do we make sure we're focusing on the right things?
Well, Parrish has this interesting thought experiment he calls future hindsight.
Future hindsight. Okay, I've never heard of that one before.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool concept.
What is it?
It involves imagining ourselves at the end of our lives looking back.
So it's like we're taking a mental time machine to the future.
Yeah, exactly. And then we ask ourselves what really mattered.
Oh, wow. I like that it puts things in perspective.
It does. It helps us prioritize what's important so we can make choices that align with our values.
It's kind of like that saying, live each day as if it were your last.
Yeah, but instead of just one day, we're looking at our whole life from that perspective.
That's powerful stuff.
It is. And this connects to another important point that Parrish makes.
Okay.
He says that we have a choice in how we spend our time and energy.
I mean, that seems obvious, but I think we often forget that we actually have a choice.
It's easy to fall into autopilot and just let our days get filled with whatever comes our way.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm guilty of that.
But Parrish says that by consciously choosing how we spend our time,
Yeah.
we can create a life that's more meaningful and fulfilling.
So we got to be intentional.
Exactly. And he encourages us to think about what we might regret not doing if we knew we had limited time left.
Oh, that's a good one. That always makes me stop and think.
It's a powerful motivator.
It is. We hear those stories about people on their deathbeds regretting the things they didn't do.
And Parrish suggests that we embrace new experiences, pursue our passions, take risks.
Yeah, get out of that comfort zone.
Exactly, because the pain of not trying, it often lasts longer than the pain of trying and failing.
That's a good point. We got to remember that.
And along those lines, Parrish also talks about the importance of relationships.
Relationships, yeah, those are huge.
They are, he says, they're essential for happiness and well-being.
I think deep down we all crave that sense of connection with others.
We do. It's a basic human need.
And it's easy to neglect those relationships when we get busy.
It is, but Parrish encourages us to prioritize spending time with our loved ones, nurturing those relationships.
Making memories.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so it's not just about our own personal happiness.
Right. It's about making a positive impact on the world.
Leaving a legacy.
Exactly. Parrish argues that true wisdom involves not just making sound decisions, but also choosing goals that are worthy of our time and energy.
So we're aligning our actions with our values.
Exactly.
Clear thinking really does offer a comprehensive approach to decision making.
It does. It gives us practical strategies, but it also encourages us to think about the bigger picture.
How to live a good life.
Exactly. It reminds us that we have the power to shape our own destinies.
By making conscious choices.
Exactly. And that by cultivating good judgment, we can create a life that is both successful and meaningful.
I love the both successful and meaningful.
It's a great combination.
This deep dive has been so insightful, and I'm curious as we're wrapping up, what stands out to you as the most impactful takeaway from clear thinking?
You know, I think for me, it's that concept of future hindsight.
Oh yeah.
It's such a powerful tool for getting clarity on what really matters.
Totally. It helps us cut through all the distractions and focus on what's truly important.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this episode, I want to turn it over to you, our listener.
Yeah, what resonated with you?
What are some of the insights or strategies or safeguards that you're going to take with you from clear thinking?
Remember, clear thinking, it's a practice, not a destination.
It's something we have to work on continuously.
We're always learning and growing.
And as you continue on this journey of cultivating clear thinking, remember, you don't have to do it alone.
That's so important.
Surround yourself with people who support you.
Find mentors. Seek out guidance.
Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Clear thinking. It gives us a roadmap for navigating life's complexities.
With more clarity, intention, and wisdom,
By embracing these principles,
you can unlock your full potential and create a life that's both successful and fulfilling.
I love it. Until next time.
Keep diving deep.
Keep those minds sharp.
Yeah, it really does feel like more than just a decision-making book.
Yeah, it's like a guide to life in a way.
It is. It challenges us to, define success on our own terms, you know?
Not by what society tells us.
Exactly, but by what really matters to us deep down.
Right. Parrish says, wisdom isn't just about knowing what to go after. It's also about knowing what to let go of.
Oh, that's a good point.
We have to make conscious choices about how we spend our time and energy and resources. We only get so much of each of those.
Exactly. Our time is limited.
So we got to make it count.
Clear thinking. I think it offers a really refreshing perspective on decision-making.
Yeah, it does. It's not just about being efficient or hitting those external goals.
Right.
It's about aligning our choices with what truly matters to us.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance between the head and the heart.
It is, and this deep dive has been so insightful. I'm curious for you, what's been the most impactful takeaway from clear thinking?
That's a good question.
Yeah, what really stood out to you?
You know, I think for me, it's that concept of future hindsight.
Oh yeah, me too.
It's such a powerful tool for getting clarity on what truly matters
Totally, it helps us cut through all the noise and distractions of daily life.
and focus on what's truly important.
Yeah, what really matters at the end of the day.
Exactly. And I'd love to hear from you, our listener.
Yeah, tell us what resonated with you.
What insights, strategies, safeguards are you going to take with you from clear thinking?
You know, clear thinking, it's a practice, not a destination.
It's something we have to keep working on.
We're always learning and growing.
And as you continue on this journey of cultivating clear thinking,
Yeah,
remember that you don't have to go it alone.
such an important reminder.
Surround yourself with supportive people.
Find mentors, ask for help.
We all need it sometimes.
Clear thinking. It gives us a roadmap
For navigating life's complexities.
with more clarity, intention, and wisdom.
And by embracing these principles.
You can unlock your full potential.
And create a life that's both successful and fulfilling.
I love that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those minds sharp.